Good evening, my friends. We live in a world overflowing with opportunities, yet many feel lost, unsure, even paralyzed when it comes to choosing a career path. Why? Because we've been trained to chase prestige over purpose, to follow trends instead of our truth. But today, I want to remind you, your career isn't just what you do. It's an extension of who you are. And when you align your work with your core, your mission, your calling, you don't just succeed, you soar. You can't hit a target you can't see. That's the truth so many people overlook when navigating career choices. We live in a reactive world where people make decisions based on urgency, money, or external pressure. They accept the first offer, follow the family tradition, or default to the most socially accepted path. But without a clear vision of where you want to go, every road seems tempting. And that's how people get lost. Beginning with the end in mind is not just a principle for productivity. It's the foundation of direction. It means starting with a deep understanding of your desired destination, and then aligning every choice, every opportunity, every detour to that vision. Most people wander through their professional life, chasing goals they didn't define and fulfilling dreams they never questioned. But clarity is power. When you can articulate the kind of impact you want to have, the kind of life you want to live, and the kind of legacy you want to leave, decisions become easier. The noise starts to fade, and a powerful internal compass takes over. I remember working with a young woman named Sarah. She had just graduated with top honors. On paper, she was a high achiever. She had 3 offers from major companies, each with prestige, salary, and fast-track leadership programs. But something inside her felt unsettled. When we sat down, I didn't ask her which job offered the highest pay. I asked her, "What does success look like for you in 10 years?" She paused. No one had ever asked her that. As she reflected, tears welled up. She said, "I want to empower girls in underdeveloped regions through education." Suddenly, none of those 3 offers aligned with her true desire. They were attractive distractions from her deeper calling. That conversation changed everything. She ended up turning down all 3 and joined a nonprofit where she could begin working toward her vision. It didn't pay 6 figures. It didn't come with perks. But it came with something far more valuable: fulfillment, clarity, and purpose. And over time, that purpose led her to a position of global influence far beyond what any of those initial offers could have given her. That's the power of beginning with the end in mind. It removes ambiguity. It replaces confusion with conviction. And it protects you from the trap of success without significance. How many people do you know who are successful by society's standards, yet feel deeply unfulfilled? They climbed the ladder of success only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. They forgot, or never discovered, what their end looked like. Don't let that be you. When you begin with the end in mind, you approach every job, internship, or opportunity with discernment. You start asking better questions. Will this get me closer to the legacy I want to build? Does this align with the values I want to embody? Does this path grow the kind of person I want to become? These questions are not abstract. They are anchors. They ground you in what matters most, especially when the world tries to seduce you with superficial wins. This is not about having a rigid, unchangeable plan. Life is dynamic. Your vision will evolve as you grow. But without a vision to start with, growth is often random. The power lies in intentionality, in choosing your path rather than drifting along one, in planting a flag on your own mountaintop and then moving toward it step by step. People often say, "I don't know what I want." That's okay. The first step is to give yourself the space to imagine. Turn off the noise. Sit with your thoughts. Ask yourself, not what job you want, but what kind of contribution you want to make. What kind of stories do you want people to tell about you when you're gone? What kind of problems do you feel called to solve? That's where clarity begins. And once you gain even a glimpse of that vision, you must protect it. The world will test it. People will challenge it. You will doubt it. But vision is not about certainty. It's about commitment. It's about anchoring yourself to a future worth fighting for. So today, I challenge you to take 30 minutes and write a personal mission statement. Not a list of job titles. Not a resume. But a mission that answers, why am I here? What matters most to me? What do I want to give? Read it daily. Let it guide your decisions. And if you already have one, revisit it. Refine it. Make sure it still reflects your growth. Because when you begin with the end in mind, you stop chasing and start building. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop wondering what you should do and start becoming who you were meant to be. There's a moment in every career journey where uncertainty strikes like a storm. Too many opinions, too many doubts, too many things out of your hands. That's when people freeze. They wait. They hope something external will change so they can feel in control again. But here's the truth. Waiting for the world to change is a trap. Real power comes when you understand the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. That distinction is the essence of your circle of influence. It's not just a concept. It's a way of navigating life with clarity and confidence, especially when making career choices. There was a young man I mentored named James. He was passionate about art, sketching, painting, storytelling. His soul came alive in the creative world. But his parents, well-meaning as they were, insisted he pursue finance. They told him art wasn't practical, that it wouldn't pay the bills, that he should do something smart. So, James compromised. He took a finance job, wore a suit, smiled through meetings, and tried to make it work. But over time, the joy drained out of him. He was succeeding by someone else's definition, and suffering silently. He told me, "I feel like I'm living someone else's life." That conversation marked a turning point. I didn't tell him to quit his job. I told him to focus on what was within his circle of influence. You can't control your parents' opinions, I said, but you can control how much time you spend developing your craft. You can control what you create after hours. You can control whether you live with regret or move with integrity. That shift changed everything. He began freelancing in the evenings. He built a portfolio, and a year later, he launched his own creative studio. It didn't happen overnight, but it began the moment he stopped trying to control what he couldn't and doubled down on what he could. This is what we all must learn when navigating our careers. Stop wasting energy on what you can't control. You can't control the economy. You can't control what jobs are trending this year. You can't control whether a recruiter calls you back, but you can control your preparation. You can control your learning. You can control your attitude, your habits, your resilience. And when you shift your focus inward to your circle of influence, you become proactive, not reactive. You gain power. It's heartbreaking to see how many talented people give up on their dreams, not because they weren't capable, but because they were too focused on external obstacles. They say things like, "There's too much competition," or "No one's hiring in my field," or "My family won't support this path." And maybe those things are true, but they're not the full story. The full story includes what you can do. You can build skills. You can network. You can take initiative. You can create your own opportunities. That's the power of focusing on what you control. This mindset doesn't just help you make better career choices. It helps you stay strong in the face of rejection, doubt, and detours. Life rarely goes exactly according to plan, but if your energy is rooted in what you can influence, you won't be tossed around by circumstances. You'll become the kind of person who adapts, who persists, who finds another way forward. And make no mistake, this isn't just about hard work. It's about emotional freedom, because when you constantly try to control things that are outside your power, people's opinions, outcomes, timing, you suffer. You become anxious, bitter, or burned out. But when you let go of what you can't change and commit fully to what you can, you reclaim peace. You move with strength. So here's what I urge you to do today. Sit down and make 2 columns. On one side, list all your current career worries. On the other side, write which of those you can directly influence. You'll be surprised. The list of things you can control is longer than you think. Focus on those. Every single day, take one small action within your circle of influence. Update your resume. Practice your skills. Reach out to someone in the field. Launch a project. Read a book. These little actions compound into momentum. Momentum builds confidence. And confidence leads to courage. The courage to take the next step. Because in the end, your career will not be shaped by luck alone or other people's decisions. It will be shaped by your consistent choice to influence what you can, release what you can't, and grow through the process. That's how you reclaim your power. That's how you move forward when the world feels uncertain. And that's how you become the author of your own story, rather than a character in someone else's. In today's world, there is an overwhelming amount of noise. Everywhere you turn, someone is telling you what you should do with your life. Your friends have opinions. Your parents have expectations. Social media paints a distorted picture of success, and the world screams 1,000 different messages about what matters and what doesn't. It's easy to get swept up in the whirlwind and lose your own voice in the process. But if you truly want to make wise and authentic career choices, you must learn to tune out the noise and tune in to your inner voice. That voice is not loud, not flashy, not desperate. It's quiet, but it's true. It knows who you are, what you love, what makes you come alive. And if you follow it, it will lead you not just to a job, but to a calling. I met a young man once. His name was Arjun. Brilliant mind. Excellent academic record. He had 2 offers in hand, one from a prestigious medical school and another from a renowned design institute. His parents were clear. They wanted him to be a doctor. His peers told him medicine was the more respectable path. The money, the status, the stability, it was all there. But Arjun wasn't so sure. He felt something different stir within him when he was sketching or imagining new products. When he came to me, he was completely torn. I asked him just one question. What does your heart tell you when everything else is silent? He didn't answer right away. But a few days later, he came back. When I imagine a life in design, he said, I feel excited, energized, free. When I imagine being a doctor, I feel trapped. That moment of honesty changed his life. He chose design, and years later, he was leading a team that was innovating solutions in the healthcare industry, impacting lives in a way that felt true to him. He didn't betray his parents' values. He honored them in his own authentic way. This is what happens when you listen to your inner voice. You stop living for applause and start living from alignment. The noise outside is always going to be there. Someone will always have something to say about what you should do, how you should do it, when you should settle down, or what success should look like. But their voices don't have to define your direction. The only voice that truly knows the path that will fulfill you is yours. But here's the hard truth. Most people never listen long enough to hear that voice. We fill our lives with distractions. We scroll endlessly. We compare ourselves to everyone we see. We chase approval instead of truth. We silence our instincts because they don't align with what's popular. And over time, that inner voice becomes a whisper we can barely hear. The longer we ignore it, the harder it is to recognize. That's why you must learn to create space for it to speak. That space doesn't come from chance. It comes from intentional solitude, from choosing moments where you disconnect from the noise and reconnect with yourself. That means putting the phone down, saying no to constant comparison, getting still. It could be a walk, a journal, a weekend alone, whatever helps you hear yourself again. You'll know you've found that space when your thoughts slow down and you begin to feel not what you should do, but what you must do. Your inner voice doesn't guarantee comfort. In fact, it often asks you to take the harder path, the unpopular one, the road that others won't understand. But it will also be the road where you discover your strength, your creativity, your truth. And that kind of clarity is priceless. So here's what I challenge you to do. Take 30 minutes this week. Just you and a journal. No phone, no internet, no one else. Write down these questions and answer them honestly. What excites me? What do I dream about when no one's watching? What kind of work makes me forget time? What would I pursue if I weren't afraid of failing or disappointing others? Don't filter your answers. Don't write what sounds good. Write what feels real. That's the voice you follow. And remember this, your career is not a performance. It's a reflection. It should reflect your values, your strengths, your passions, and your deepest convictions. When you follow your inner voice, you may not impress everyone, but you will inspire many. More importantly, you'll wake up with peace, purpose, and power. Because you'll know that you didn't just take the easy road. You took the true one. There's a common myth that says all you need to succeed in your career is passion. Follow your passion, they say, and everything else will work out. But if passion is the engine, then skill is the fuel. Passion without strength leads to frustration. You can love something deeply, but if you haven't built the skills to execute at a high level, you'll struggle to sustain that passion over time. That's why one of the most critical steps in navigating your career is discovering and developing your unique strengths. Not just what you enjoy, but what you can become great at. Because when passion meets capability, you don't just do work, you do meaningful, excellent work that opens doors and transforms lives. There's a woman I worked with years ago. Her name was Anna. She was compassionate, full of energy, and deeply people-oriented. But she kept trying to succeed in data analytics because she thought that was where the jobs were. The numbers, the coding, the systems. They drained her. Every day felt like a battle. She would tell herself, I just need to try harder, or maybe I'm not smart enough. It wasn't a lack of intelligence. It was a mismatch of strength. I asked her, when do you feel most alive? She said, when I'm in a room with people, helping them grow, listening to their challenges, encouraging them. That answer revealed everything. She wasn't wired for spreadsheets. She was built for human connection. Within a year, she left her analytics role, became certified in life and career coaching, and within another year, she was leading workshops that helped others discover their own purpose. The shift wasn't just external, it was internal. She stopped fighting against herself and started flowing with her strengths. We often make the mistake of choosing careers based on what's popular or prestigious instead of what we're naturally wired for. And then we wonder why we feel drained, disconnected, or inadequate. It's like trying to be a fish that climbs trees. You'll spend your whole life feeling like a failure when the truth is, you were meant to swim. Every person has a unique combination of talents, personality traits, and ways of thinking. Your job is to discover what those are and invest in them relentlessly. Don't waste time trying to fix your weaknesses. Manage them, yes, but double down on your strengths. That's where the magic is. It's not enough to simply know what you're good at. You must build mastery. In today's world, being average isn't enough. The people who rise are those who become excellent. And excellence doesn't happen by accident. It happens through discipline, deliberate practice, and focused development. The more you refine your skills, the more confidence you build. And confidence breeds opportunity. People notice when someone is truly exceptional at what they do. They're drawn to it. They want to work with you, learn from you, follow you. Your strengths become your signature, and your signature becomes your brand. But here's where many people fall short. They get comfortable. They say, I'm pretty good at this, and stop there. But the best careers aren't built on being good. They're built on becoming remarkable. That means you never stop learning. You never stop growing. You never settle. Whether it's through books, mentors, courses, or feedback, you keep sharpening your edge. Because when you do, you become unstoppable. It's also important to recognize that your strengths are not just technical. They can be interpersonal, emotional, creative. Maybe you're a problem solver. Maybe you have a gift for bringing calm to chaos. Maybe you see patterns others don't. Maybe you inspire people without trying. Those are strengths too, and they're just as valuable as any hard skill. The key is to identify them, trust them, and build your career around them. So what do you do with all of this? Start by asking yourself, and those you trust, what are the things you do effortlessly that others struggle with? What do people thank you for the most? What activities give you energy instead of draining it? The answers to those questions will point you to your core strengths. Then take action. Find ways to develop those abilities even further. If you're good at speaking, speak more. If you're good at solving problems, get in rooms where problems need to be solved. If you're good at leading, find opportunities to lead. The more you use your strengths, the stronger they become. And the stronger they become, the more doors they open. Because at the end of the day, your career will be shaped not by how hard you work alone, but by how strategically you build your work around who you truly are. Passion will give you energy, yes, but it's your strengths, developed, refined, and mastered, that will give you momentum. And momentum is what carries you from potential to purpose. Every career decision you make either brings you closer to your core values or pulls you further away from them. And most people never realize how important that truth is until they're years into a job that leaves them feeling empty. You see, it's one thing to do work that pays well or looks good on a resume. But it's another thing entirely to do work that aligns with your inner code, your non-negotiables, your deepest beliefs. When your values and your vocation are in harmony, you feel grounded, clear, and energized. But when they're in conflict, even the best job will feel like a burden. I worked with a man named David. Brilliant engineer, top of his class, working for one of the biggest firms in the country. He had everything on the surface: salary, perks, recognition. But over time he started feeling uneasy. The company culture was cutthroat. People competed against each other more than they collaborated. There were ethical corners being cut, and decisions were made purely based on profit, not on people. David, someone who valued integrity, transparency, and teamwork, found himself caught in a silent war within. He'd tell me, "I should be happy, but I feel like I'm compromising who I am just to fit in." Eventually, he made the bold decision to leave and joined a mission-driven startup that paid less but honored his values. The result? He started waking up with purpose. He worked harder, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He didn't just do a job, he lived his values. This is the emotional cost most people don't calculate. When your work violates your values, even subtly, it eats away at your sense of self. You begin to feel off, uneasy, sometimes even guilty. You lose respect for yourself. You become numb to your own inner compass. That's when burnout creeps in. Not always because of the workload, but because of the soul load. The weight of being someone you're not, of doing something that doesn't reflect who you are. When your values and vocation align, though everything shifts, you begin to feel proud, not just of what you do, but of how you do it. You no longer have to fake enthusiasm or hide parts of yourself. Your work becomes an extension of your truth. That kind of authenticity is rare and powerful. People can sense it. They trust it. They're drawn to it. It becomes a foundation not only for success, but for legacy. But here's the catch: you can't align your work with your values if you don't know what your values are. Too many people never take the time to define them. They inherit values from their parents, society, or culture, and assume those should govern their choices. But values aren't about shoulds. They're about musts. What do you must have in your life to feel alive, respected, fulfilled? Is it creativity, freedom, service, growth, honesty, adventure? Clarity starts there. One of the most powerful exercises I've ever given to professionals in transition is to write down their top 5 values. Then I ask, how well does your current job reflect each of these values? On a scale from 1 to 10. The answers are always revealing, sometimes painful, but always liberating. Because once you see the misalignment, you can no longer ignore it. And once you name what matters most to you, you start making decisions that are rooted in truth, not fear. This doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow if it doesn't perfectly reflect your values. It means you begin to realign. You have conversations. You explore options. You look for ways to bring more of your values into your current role. And if over time that's not possible, then yes, you make the brave decision to pivot. Because staying in a role that slowly separates you from your values is not just a bad career move. It's a personal loss. Values give you direction. They act like a compass in the noise of opportunity. When you get a new offer, instead of asking, is this a step up? You start asking, does this reflect what I stand for? That one question can save you years of regret, because success built on someone else's values isn't success at all. It's quiet resignation. So here's what you can do right now. Identify your top 5 values. Write them down. Keep them visible. Use them as a filter for every major decision. And if you're unsure what they are, reflect on past moments when you felt most alive and most at peace. What values were being honored in those moments? That's your blueprint. And never forget, your work isn't just about what you do. It's about what you represent. Every meeting, every project, every decision is a chance to reflect your deepest beliefs. Align your vocation with your values, and you won't just build a career. You'll build a life worth living. One of the greatest myths we're taught growing up is that we have to figure it all out before we take the first step. We believe we need to have the whole path mapped out, the perfect plan in place, the ideal career chosen before we begin. But the truth is, clarity rarely comes before action. Clarity comes from movement, from experimentation, from doing. It's in the process of exploring, trying, adjusting, and sometimes failing that you begin to uncover what fits and what doesn't. Waiting for the perfect answer before you act is like trying to steer a parked car. It gets you nowhere. But once you start moving, even in a small way, you can begin to change direction, discover insight, and find your way forward. I worked with a woman named Emily who felt completely stuck. She had a degree in computer science, but she also loved writing and was deeply interested in education. She kept asking, should I become a teacher, a tech developer, or a writer? That question haunted her for months. The more she thought about it, the more overwhelmed she became. Every path seemed to lead to regret. So I asked her, what if you didn't have to decide right now? What if you just ran a few small experiments? She looked puzzled. I said, shadow a teacher for a week. Volunteer at a coding boot camp. Write articles on the side. Try all 3, just in small doses. And let the experience teach you what thinking can't. That shift in mindset gave her freedom. She stopped trying to make a life-defining decision and started simply engaging with her interests. Within 6 months, she realized that what she loved most was helping people learn using digital tools. She eventually founded an edtech platform that combined technology, writing, and education. Something she never would have discovered if she had waited for perfect clarity before beginning. That's the power of experimentation. It reveals connections and callings that your mind alone can't always see. People often fear making the wrong choice, but the only truly wrong choice is not choosing at all. Paralysis by analysis is real, and it steals time, confidence, and opportunity. You don't need to marry every idea. Just date it. Try it out. See how it feels. You'll learn more from a week of action than from a year of overthinking. Because career decisions aren't made in a vacuum. They're shaped by real-world feedback. You have to put yourself in motion. And no, experiments don't always lead to immediate success. But they always lead to valuable data. Sometimes the outcome will be, I love this, and sometimes it'll be, this isn't for me. But either way, you're gaining clarity. Every time you engage with the real world, you discover more about yourself. And that's worth its weight in gold. This is especially important in today's fast, changing world. New industries are emerging, old ones are fading, and hybrid careers are becoming the norm. The idea of choosing one job and sticking to it forever is outdated. What matters more is adaptability, curiosity, and a willingness to explore. When you treat your career like a series of intentional experiments, you give yourself permission to evolve. You stay flexible. You stay relevant. Think of a career not as a single highway, but as a network of trails. Some are well trodden. Some are new. Some loop back. And some lead to places you never expected. The only way to know which trail is yours is to walk it. Even a misstep is progress, because it teaches you something you need to know. And let's be honest, a lot of the fear around experimentation is fear of judgment. What will people say if I try something new and it doesn't work? What if I look lost or indecisive? But here's the thing. Everyone is experimenting, whether they admit it or not. The people who grow are the ones who are willing to try, to learn, to adjust, and to keep going. Courage doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you're willing to act in the presence of fear. So here's your challenge: design a 30-day career experiment. Pick something you're curious about. Maybe it's a field you've always admired. Maybe it's a hobby you wonder could become a career. Reach out to someone working in that space. Take an online course. Volunteer, freelance, intern, whatever form it takes, make it real. At the end of 30 days, reflect. What energized you? What drained you? What surprised you? Use that information to guide your next step. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progression. Because every experiment brings you one step closer to the career that fits not just your skills, but your spirit. And when your career is built not just on guesses, but on lived insight, it becomes something truly powerful. Something that reflects your journey, your growth, and your courage to move even when the answers weren't clear. Success is a word that carries a heavy weight, and yet it's often defined so narrowly. We grow up being told what success should look like. Money, status, a title, a house, a car, a certain lifestyle. These images get burned into our minds, and without realizing it, we begin to chase them. Not because they align with who we are, but because we're told that's the finish line. And then something strange happens. People arrive at that so-called finish line, only to discover they feel unfulfilled. They achieved everything they were supposed to, and yet they still feel like something's missing. That's the moment they realize they never defined success on their own terms. They were living someone else's story. I once spoke to a room full of high-level executives at a leadership retreat. They were accomplished by every traditional measure: degrees, wealth, influence. But when I asked a simple question, how many of you feel deeply fulfilled in your career? Very few hands went up. Not because they lacked ambition, but because they had spent decades chasing a version of success that didn't reflect their real values, desires, or purpose. They had followed a script, but it wasn't their script. This is why it's absolutely essential that you define success for yourself. Not once, but constantly. Because as you grow, your definition may evolve. When you're young, success might mean exploration and learning. Later, it might mean impact or balance. But if you never stop to ask the question, what does success look like for me? You'll spend your life climbing ladders that lead nowhere meaningful. True success is personal. It's not a destination. It's a reflection. It reflects your values, your priorities, your season of life. It's not just about what you achieve, but how you feel about what you achieve. You could earn a promotion and feel miserable. You could turn down a high-paying job and feel free. You could take a leap into uncertainty and feel more alive than you ever did in a corner office. The outside world may not understand your choices, but that's not their job. It's your job to know what matters most to you and to make decisions that align with that. There's a young woman I met named Layla. She had just finished law school and was offered a position at a prestigious firm. Everyone around her said she had made it. Her parents were thrilled. Her professors beamed with pride. But something in her hesitated. She didn't feel excited. She felt dread. Not because she didn't want to work hard, but because the type of work didn't align with her heart. She had always cared deeply about human rights and advocacy, not corporate law, but saying no to the offer felt like betrayal. After weeks of reflection and many difficult conversations, she turned down the firm and joined a nonprofit legal organization working with refugees. It paid less. It didn't come with glamour. But she told me, for the first time, I feel like I'm not pretending. That's real success. Your version of success may not impress others. It may not show up on magazine covers or LinkedIn highlights. But if it brings you peace, passion, and purpose, that is enough. You do not need validation to live a meaningful life. You need conviction. The conviction to say, this is what matters to me. This is the kind of life I want to build. So what do you do with all of this? You start by getting brutally honest with yourself. Strip away all the noise. Set aside what others expect of you. And ask, what kind of life do I want to live? Do you want freedom? Do you want balance? Do you want challenge? Do you want to create, to serve, to lead, to explore? What do you want your days to feel like? Your weeks? Your years? That's where you begin to define success on your own terms. Then write it down. Make it clear. Make it visible. And when opportunities arise, measure them against your personal definition. Ask, does this bring me closer to the life I want, or farther away? Let that be your filter. Not someone else's applause, not the salary, not the title, but your definition, your truth. Because in the end, success without fulfillment is failure in disguise. But when you have the courage to define and pursue your own version of success, you don't just win, you live. You live fully, freely, and authentically. And that is a victory no one can take from you.